So, comic number 8. Well, there's something interesting. The first thing I notice, which is actually the second thing I noticed, but I'll tell you the first thing I noticed in a moment. But the second thing I noticed is that Jeff is doing the teeth smile there, which is just sort of, that's silence. He's not able to actually say anything. He's got the regular, just a simple smile. That's sort of the half smile. I think I described it as in the first panel. Second one, he's got the teeth smile, and then he goes back to a bad version of the check mark in the last one. Again, with the hiding of the hands. Jeff's got his hands behind his back. I think the character name was, I should have looked this up, but I didn't, is Julie over there on the right. Her hands are hidden behind the counter. The first thing I noticed, I knew I was going to notice this because I remembered this happening. Well, there's no other way of saying it. Julie's breasts. So, I think one of the main reasons that I draw, there's predominantly male characters in this comic strip, in this series, because female characters are difficult to draw because female characters have breasts. Now, it's not just that I don't know anything about breasts, but it is partly that. It is mostly that I can't draw anything consistently. So when you try to draw two things the same size, say two round shapes of equal size, they never turn out being exactly the same size, and they always look a little bit misshapen. In the third panel, they are misshapen. In the second panel, they look a little blurry. And in the first panel, they look like they've been lined over about 7 or 8 times. The fact is, they were. In every, I'm going to say about 90% of the time that I drew a female character with having breasts, I would have to redraw the breasts about 4, 5 times, just constantly. I draw them and then I say, no, one is way bigger than the other one. No, that looks more like a square than a rounded circle. It was just how impossible it was. And sometimes, I don't know if you can really see it looking carefully, but you sort of draw first, and then you draw the breasts, and then you go with the waist, or the waistline down from the breast line. So it's a lot easier with one of the characters. Say for Jeff there, taking the first one. Draw the head, fine, head done. You get to the neck, and then from the neck you go down on the shoulders. I think I described this in the first or second comic. You draw down from the shoulders and do sort of the arm line. I talked about the arm line. So with the female characters, you do the arm line, but then instead of drawing the armpit to hip line, sort of the two inner lines of that sort of 4-line torso bit, you kind of have to do this little rounded, two rounded breasts, and then below that you draw from below the breast, then you do the down towards the hip line. So that was just where that became kind of complicated. The other thing about Julie was her hair. Now, her hair is sort of like a kind of a rounded bird's foot, or sort of a spork type shape, with just kind of a scarf on the back of it. If you look really closely, it's just got 3 little spikes of hair out the front, and that was my attempt at bangs. Now, obviously, there's not that much of a gap between bangs because there's this tiny little, it's like an hourglass figure in the middle of her hair, where it's the difference between the front and the back, and things don't actually work that way. I can't remember if I did anything different later, because there's her ear, and there's no hair in front of her ears. Apparently in this particular world, no one has hair in front of their ears. So there was just that as well. And it looks like I did over their eyes several times, or just did something. And in the third panel, she's got angry eyes, or the angry brows. And I think I use that with Mr. Grieber every now and then. The only thing there is that instead of drawing the full line, because usually I just draw a line, and it was a certain length for the eyes. I've never understood why I did that, I just did. But I'd always make the line much shorter, so the eyes are much smaller, so that angry eyes can have the illusion that the eyes are smaller, even though nobody's eyes actually look that way. Anyway, it's just my little nitpicky weird things. Font still looks awful. I don't think I'd found anti-aliasing by that point. The Greasy Spoon, the name of the sort of fast food chain. I think I stole that. There was some computer game or book or something that I read when I was really, really young, and that was when I learned that the euphemism for a really bad, greasy diner that just serves, chicken fried steak is you just refer to it as your local greasy spoon. Now, I have no idea why. I should probably look that up. But that's just, I decided to go with the most generic name for a fast food or a food place that probably denotes that it won't be very good food, which was part of the humor as well, where they want to go to this restaurant, not because it has food, but because that there's a girl, albeit I think in theory a hot girl. I don't remember if I described her as a hot girl, but of course, with absolutely no facial features whatsoever. She was just kind of, I mean, thin-ish, had breasts, was there. So how she was a hot girl as compared to other women that I drew, I don't know how. They just described her as such. The humor behind this, and I think I'm deciding that I am going to occasionally explain jokes, even though you can see why it's funny, but I'll just explain quickly why it's funny. Is just, she asks a question, Jeff's obviously not listening. It's the humor behind this is the sidetrack, the stereotypical inability to concentrate by men when they're talking to women. So she's asking logical questions. Well, she asks a logical question, and then this is where the strength of the female character comes out. I wanted to make sure that the women in the comic, or the female characters in the comic, weren't just cardboard cutouts. They were very strong-minded, strong-willed. So in that aspect, it's quite a lot like PvP, where there's a lot of bumbling men, and then a really strong, useful female character. If I could remember any of the names from PvP, I would, but I haven't read that comic in years. Sorry to Scott Kurtz, but don't worry, he'll never hear this. So Julie is the strong character, so once she realizes, in the middle of panel 2, she has figured out this guy is only here to stare at me. So, customer service aside, she just decided, or should I just kick you in the nards? We've had a discussion among my sort of writing group. We all get together and talk about funny things. And there was a sketch that we did where I think it started as, was this the person who kicked so-and-so in... Now, what was it originally? Who kicked someone in the... Now, we didn't use balls. We didn't use testicles. Because we wanted to go with something that was funny enough. So I think we eventually settled on the timbits, which, if you're not Canadian, is sort of a small... It's like a mini donut with no hole. Basically, the theory behind it is that you have a donut that you punch out of the dough, and then the middle piece is just sort of thrown out. So it's the whole of the donut that is made into its own little donut, and it's a tiny little dough ball. Really tasty. So we thought that it sounds funny. You know, did he kick him in the timbits? Being kicked in the timbits. So what are some of the other funny ones that people have settled on over the years? Just because you have to have euphemisms for testicles for some reason, just because it's funnier. So there's family jewels, balls, nards, nads, gonads, just a million different things. So I settled on nards for this one, and even now I look at it, and a girl would never say nards. I think she'd say something like pills. Pills is a good one. Or junk. Maybe a woman wouldn't say junk. I don't know. So even now I can't decide what I'd go with. I just must have picked something and go. So Jeff obviously not listening, and totally distracted by obviously the breasts. So he says, yes, thanks, I'll have the breasts. So it's the humor that he's not paying attention, but she knows it. I probably should have tilted his head. This is the one comic that I didn't tilt his head, so it does look like he's actually making eye contact, which probably would have been funnier had his head slowly been tilting down. You know, first panel straight, second panel a little ways down, third panel staring directly at him, and yes, give me the breasts, I will take those. I think that's about it, except for the fact that obviously her fast food counter is a long cardboard box, and there's obviously nothing behind her. I was such a lazy artist. But again, I wasn't trying to be a great artist. I was just trying to prove a point that with no artistic value, you could do a webcomic really fast and really easy. This one's going on a little long. Okay, so before I finish off, I must say that this coming week, I won't be doing any of these because I'm going away on a summer vacation with family. So there won't be one until the following Monday, whenever that is. Anyway, so I'll be gone for a little bit. Not that anyone's really paying close attention to this. I'll be gone for now. All right. Till comic number 9 in about a week's time. Bye.